HD 360 semi-automatic alligator bandsaw. Hopefully by now you've got it ready to install. Normally comes with a piece of flex like this. You can put a plug on it. Really you just want a short bit of flex for safety reasons. We prefer you to put it in permanently using armor flex or conduits. This is a coolant tank. Obviously you fill it up to close to the top here where the pump is mounted. We recommend using ARG coolant at a ratio of 10:1 for mild steel and maybe 7:1 for stainless and high alloys. Next to it is the hydraulic pack. There is usually a cap on here which is not vented to stop spillage while it's being transported to you. You need to swap it over to the one that is vented. Next to it here is the regulator for the pressure. Shouldn't need to touch this. We set it for around 20 bar. You can set it up to 30 bar if you wish. The gauge is behind it. There's a lock nut here and you can turn it. But as I say, 20 bar should be adequate. 30 bar is if you really want a lot of clamping pressure or a lot of forcing down feed, which you might use on stainless, Hastelloys, Inconels, that sort of thing. Electrics. The main switch is here, the rotary switch. Here is the overload for the hydraulic pump. It's also linked into the coolant pump, so if there's a problem with the coolant pump, this will trip as well. This is the trip for the main motor. It should be up and the machine should work at that point. Over here is the frequency inverter. This governs the blade speed of the machine. You shouldn't need to touch that, but at least I've shown you where everything is. Okay, when you get the machine you must make sure this button is pulled out. You'll then see that there's a yellow button on here. You need to press that in order to get the machine to work at all. When you finally have done that, there are two ways of operating the machine. You can have it as a manual machine in that you press all the individual buttons for the operation of the machine, or the automatic position. If it's the manual position, you can clamp the vise here, you can start the blade here, you can engage the down feed here, and you can have it so that the machine goes down to the bottom and stays there. But you can also have it so it goes down to the bottom and then comes back up again on its own. But there's really no need to use the machine that way. It's just that there may be certain jobs you find it easier to do it that way. The main way to use the machine is as a semi-automatic, in the automatic position displayed here. And the vise in position 1, so that when the machine starts it will clamp, switch the blade on, cut through the work, pop back up again, and the vise will open at the top. So I'll just show you those two modes of operation so that you can see how it all works. So we can start the machine here with the hydraulics on. At the moment it's in manual mode with this switch. You can put your work in the machine, clamp it up, start the blade first, and then you can come down and do the cut, regulated by this. And the machine stopped at the bottom. Or you can have it so it does the same thing but goes back up again. So you start the blade and then it goes into feed mode and goes back up to the top. To use the machine as a semi-automatic, you just do the vise up until it's almost touching the work, just wind it back a couple of millimeters. The vise is left in the off position because when you press the start on the semi-automatic, the vise will then clamp. The machine will come down, cut the workpiece and go back up again, vise opening, then you can put the work through ready for the next cut. So it's repetition like that. So I'll speed the process up by opening up the down feed valve so you can see the repetition. So I've loaded the work, set the vise up, start the machine, vise open, work through for the next cut, start again. Vise open again, ready for the next cut. something to be wary of is to make sure the vise is in the right position for what you're cutting. If you have the vise too far this way, the guard will come down and hit this and it won't make the switch to return. So make sure you're about where we are here. You see this jaw here is about 10 millimeters back from this jaw. It can be anywhere there or back a bit further if you wish. And you can nip it with an Allen key. Right, mitering, as you can see, I'm right round to 60 degrees this way. The other way it goes to 45 degrees. So just unlock and then move it left or right. There's a miter scale here and a mark here. Obviously, if you're going the other way, the vise is made so that it slides along to here so that you can cut the other way. Right, changing the blade. There's a door guard here with a micro switch on it with just buckles. You can remove that door. There's a guard here, which you need a 10mm spanner for, and a guard at the back here in order to release the blade. So you take those two guards off with a spanner. You need to get the machine up a little way to do this to make it easy for yourself. It's important that when you load the blade, you make sure that it is fully home up inside these guides. Blade tension is very simple on this machine. There are Blvd spring washers here. It's designed that they collapse and that you just do it up until you can't do it anymore. It physically just goes tight. At the same time, it will be making a switch. That switch is nothing to do with how tight you do it up. It's just that if the blade breaks or jams and comes off the machine, the switch will stop the motor from working. This switch is the return switch. When the machine hits the bottom of the cut, it will make this switch and the machine will go back up again. If you have swarf building up here or under this dead stop here, it won't make the switch and the machine won't go up again. So obviously cleanliness is important here. This is the switch for the height, so you can set it how high the machine is above the work. So you don't have any wasted time. You can just set it up so that it's just above the workpiece each time, and then you don't have delays in it coming down to the workpiece. If you have it too high like this, on 0, the machine won't come up at all. So you've got to at least give it something. For instance, I've just set that there at 50, so it should come up just clear of 50mm to cut something 50mm. Okay, blades and blade speeds, coolant, etc. The most important things when you're using the saw. On this machine we have an infinitely variable speed. It goes up to about 90 meters per minute. You seldom need that unless you're doing aluminiums and plastics. Most of our customers are cutting metals, steels, etc. So you might run it around 30 meters a minute for stainless steel and 70 meters a minute for mild steel. With blades, it's important to have the right tooth pitch blade for the work. You can phone our office, tell them what you're cutting, and we can advise on the blade. With coolant, as I mentioned earlier, when filling the tank, we supply a very special soluble oil that's an EP soluble for sawing. We recommend that you mix that up at 10:1 for mild steel and for 7:1 ratio for stainless steel. Always put the water in your bucket first and put the oil on top slowly while stirring. It doesn't work the other way around. Don't mix it up like orange squash. Always add the oil to the water while